It's through Christianity that we become great.
They condemn racism, but they only condemn whites who happen to be racist.
And in a way, God is just whatever it is that keeps our civilization going.
White people are constantly being told that race is a social construct. It's not even biological.
And you think, where do you belong? Yeah, you belong in a shopping mall. You know, there's nothing to you other than that.
I can see you. Can't hear you. I can hear you through Hangouts, but not. What's going on, fam? Welcome to World of Scarcity. I'm not Matthew Drake. I'm Jared Howe. Matthew is working on his microphone issues. Oy vey. I can hear myself now. Go ahead and talk, Matt. No, it's true.
Okay, I'm on. Whew, you know, there's so many things on this checklist of technology things. So welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm Matthew Drake, joined, as you know already, by Jared Howe. So thanks for joining, Jared. If you don't mind, I wanted to read a quick passage. We usually do something in the middle, a little Christian-y, either a prayer or something, but I've got a quick Bible passage that I'm gonna read here just to get things started, and then we're gonna be talking about Marvel, of course. So let's see. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and do not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to prevent you from doing what you would. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are plain: fornication, impurity, licentiousness, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, anger, selfishness, dissension, party spirit, envy, drunkenness, carousing, and the like. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. If we live by the Spirit, let us also walk by the Spirit. Let us have no self-conceit, no provoking of one another, no envy of one another. Brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Look to yourself, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something, when he is not, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone, and not in his neighbor. For each man will have to bear his own load. Let him who is taught the word share all good things with him who teaches. Do not deceive. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap.
I'm concerned that I'm not going to be inheriting the kingdom of God because
oh no,
I am planning on having a couple adult beverages this week, so I guess that rules me out, fam.
Well, Jared, you can always repent. That's the good news.
Oh, I can repent later. Nice.
You can if you're sincere about it, though.
I'm sure I'll be sincere.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, so we were gonna do this other thing, but then we decided let's talk about comic books and superhero movies because you went out and saw Venom. Is that right?
Well, I saw it. I didn't go anywhere to see it. Apparently, they were so desperate to get money for the film before the end of the year that they went straight to on-demand digital streaming from the theater within like a month of it being out. So, yeah, I had the opportunity to catch it right in my living room. Didn't even have to leave the house. And I gotta say, man, as somebody, I liked Spider-Man when I was a kid, like 25 years ago, and if you don't know the backstory and why they had to screw up the story for Venom for the movie, it's because, well, Marvel had licensed Spider-Man to Sony before being sold to Disney. So then Disney had to license Spider-Man back from Marvel to include him in the Avengers. What was it called? The most recent movie, the Infinity War. And Sony was like, we want to make some money this year too. And spoiler alert, Spider-Man dies in Infinity War. So no. Yes. Oy vey. Yes, I spoiled the whole movie, but Spider-Man dies. Sony didn't want to wait for the sequel to this movie to come out to put out another one, so they did Venom. And to like get Venom's creation story away from the Spider-Man creation story, they put Venom in San Francisco instead of New York. And I'm sure you can already imagine what kind of degeneracy is going on in San Francisco. So the whole first half of the movie, like an hour, no action scenes, nothing, is just Eddie Brock, who they're casting as like this Tommy Robinson type live streamer, political pundit guy, going around to all these gay pride parades and these democracy protests, like pro-democracy protests. Really just the whole 9 yards of social justice virtue signaling. And I don't know, have you seen the movie, or you familiar with that? You like it?
I haven't seen it, but I consumed some of that comic book stuff back in the day, but yeah, I mean, it's so different now. In preparing for this or whatever, I looked up what is going on in the Spider-Man world. And so in Venom, is there actually a Spider-Man? Or
no, they weren't able to do that because Spider-Man's dead right now, and they would have had to pay Disney and all that shit. So I don't even know. It was just a cash grab basically to put out this movie in the first place, and my understanding is they have another Spider-Man movie slated for next year. Disney didn't even want them to announce it because they haven't done the end of Infinity War yet, which is coming in April. So no, there's no Spider-Man in this movie at all. They had deviated entirely from the original Spider-Man story arc. So the writers took the opportunity to insert a lot of, I don't know, for lack of a better politically correct term on YouTube, it's very social justice warrior type stuff, very leftist, like I said, gay pride, trans pride, rainbow flags flying everywhere, covering, and they have Eddie Brock covering this as though it's like he's for it and pro this, like, yeah, superhero is going to be for the gay pride movement and for trans pride and all that stuff. It struck me as very off-putting. I know that Marvel's been kind of beat to death on this, but it is part of the escapism industry. And I think a lot of the allure and a lot of that stuff was to, be able to watch movies without being beat over the head with white people are evil for oppressing gays and blacks and all that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not unaware of the fact that Marvel also had X-Men at one point, and that was supposed to be like a metaphor for, I think, the Black Panthers or something. So it's not like they weren't always woke, right?
Right. So yeah, the Marvel, I don't keep track really of who's Marvel and everything, but yeah, obviously Spider-Man, that's always been Marvel. Now, are you aware of any of this stuff that's going on with like the multiple universes and everything?
Yeah, that's something I think they've had for a while that they never really capitalized on. And I think one of their multiple universes was based on Norse mythology and based on like Asgard, which is where Thor came from. They also have a universe called the Spider-Verse, which I understand is the subject of a new animated movie starring Black Spider-Man, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Miles Morales. So, Black Spider-Man. Here, I'll pull it up on the screen. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. And, this character here, which you see him here in this picture with, like, his Air Jordans on. He's flying through what looks like New York City, right? So it was, produced by Avi Arad. A lot of people of a certain ethnic persuasion in this group here. Christina Steinberg. And then it was created by this guy, Brian Michael Bendis. He wrote the character apparently in the 2000s. And this fit into their whole universe theory. And what they're doing is actually kind of interesting. Okay, so there's this other universe where there was a Black Spider-Man, right? And they call the current universe where we're already familiar with the Peter Parker version of Spider-Man. That's the universe 616. And I'm not making this up. And then there's like a universal universe, something like that.
Yeah, I thought Universe 616 was like the real universe or something.
That's the real one, right?
Yeah, they've tried to meme this into existence a couple times now. So I think they first launched Miles Morales / Black Spider-Man through an alternate universe, and I'm not sure if the film is also set in this alternate universe. I haven't seen it, but I know that the PlayStation 4 video game that recently came out, it has Peter Parker Spider-Man from the original 616 universe, and he's literally training Miles Morales to be his replacement because he eventually dies. So it's like white Spider-Man trains his black replacement so he can hurry up and die. It's a very it's an unsurprising story arc if you understand the ethnic persuasion of the people that created it.
Yeah. And then apparently there's even deeper stories in that about how there's an evil Miles Morales in the other one, and they are in the current universe, and then they switch places. So he goes to the Universal one, and then the teenage Black Spider-Man comes to Universe 616, and it's just like you said. Okay, there's this idea of replacement, but they couldn't just. They're trying to figure out, okay, how can we come up with a Spider-Man who's black, because there's already a white Spider-Man, right? And so they're just like, oh yeah, let's make this new universe, and then the universes collide, and it's kind of, I don't know if they realized that they were doing this, but it's essentially like the literal, like it gets very meta, right? Because this is what they are trying to do, is replace one culture with a completely different and opposite culture. Like all of the laws of the universe are just reversed. And so, I mean, to paraphrase Scott Adams, of course, everyone is watching two different movies, and this is the story of what happens when those movies get sort of mixed up or interchanged.
Well, you also have, in these stories, you also have some other tropes that have become persistent in mainstream media, like the all-powerful woman who cannot be defeated or whatever. This is something you see maybe not so much in Venom, but I think the Into the Spider-Verse thing has a female Spider-Man character in it as well. But even the Spider-Man video game that came out, I think it has, instead of having Mary Jane Mary Jane Watson as like a supermodel as she was in the past, they've cast her as this this Vice News type investigative reporter doing hit pieces on evil corporations and stuff like that. And they got her like literally sneaking through warehouses, sneaking through corporate buildings among very heavily armed men that could kick her ass. And she's outsmarting them, overpowering them, all this shit. And you're just like, what the well, you know, I mean, this, like I said, this subject's been hammered to death, and the aggrandizement of women in video games and media, but it's just one of these things where they're almost trying to meme the white male hero archetype out of existence, and entirely in the same way that I guess they're trying to meme Christmas as being about snow and presents. I don't think, you know, we put on TV in my house every now and then just to have something on in the background. I don't think I've seen a new episode of anything this year that wasn't saying something to the effect of, we need to start a new tradition this Christmas. It's like, well, what's wrong with our old traditions there, guy? What's so wrong with us goyim that we need to, you know, change our traditions around for the benefit of people who hate Christmas? I don't really, you know, I would say I don't get it, but I would be lying.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, it'd be one thing if they were creating brand new stories. But no, they're not doing that. They have to rehash these old characters which were popular, because otherwise they don't know if it's going to succeed. But everyone around the world now, because of this multinationalism and globalization that's happening, everyone knows who Spider-Man is, you know, and they have in Japan their own Spider-Man series there. And so this, yeah, I don't know. It's
I mean, if they could regionalize it for areas like that, like we can give Japan a Japanese Spider-Man that nobody outside of Japan even has to like come in contact with, then why do we have to have, you know, why do we have to have black Spider-Man and woman Spider-Man shoved down our throats? And it's to normalize us to the idea that we're not going to see white men in positions of, you know, in positions of heroism, in positions of power, that this is wrong. And they've internalized this. And, you know, they've taken all these things, like, I don't know, Spider-Man's one. They take all these things that they know that are important to white people, that white people value, and they change the origin story to retcon white people out of it. And I understand that the character was created by, you know, by Stan Lee, who was not white. He was Jewish. But at the same time, it's not like these things aren't important to white people. Like, you see, Legend of Zelda is not created by white people, but is important to white people. Same with the Super Mario Brothers. There are these things out there, these cultural icons in white culture, maybe not created by white people, but assimilated by white people. And, you know, the people in power seize onto that, and they do try to retcon it as being antithetical to whiteness, because, as I said, they want to write us out of history. They want to write us out of popular culture.
Exactly. If you are seeing movies like Black Panther, where you have Wakanda, which should be something that they are producing as a feel-good story, or not even feel-good, just like a popular version in Africa or somewhere that is all black, that should be where they're showing these images of these movies about Black Panther. But no, they're showing them here. And so that has to do with globalization. And yeah, they do get, it's funny, they get the blowback from the Chinese, who are like, we don't like black people. Why are you showing us black people in these movies?
Well, so Star Wars did that, right?
Yeah.
Star Wars wasn't doing so good in China because they put a black guy as the star of it. And China's like, oh, why the hell are you doing this? And with the Wakanda thing too. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
They had to erase him out of the movie poster. Exactly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And with the Wakanda thing specifically, that's a fiercely nationalistic idea, is it not? And yet it's presented entirely uncritically. Oh, you got Oprah in the media going, Wakanda, this Black Panther, this was more than just a movie. Like, it's okay. I mean, that's fine, whatever. If you want to go have your own black countries, I think you should be allowed to do that. You need to be allowed to do that for us to be able to have our own countries. And I think everybody, you can't get along, we should live separately. I don't see what's wrong with that. But, if Donald Trump says, I'm a nationalist, then all of a sudden, oy vey, it's another Showa. we can't have that. But, you know, we all understand, probably, if you're watching this show, you understand that there is a double standard with regard to blacks and whites. And it's because we've been completely unpersoned on this false premise that we somehow have all this institutional power and all this collective blood guilt for a history of oppressing, you know, non-whites and our inferiors. And if we use those same arguments to criticize Jewish nepotism and say, well, they have all this institutional power, they're Jewish supremacists, they're very anti-Gentile, then all of a sudden we're racist, even though we're told that Judaism isn't a race. It's bonkers, man. It's like quantum Judaism. It's an ethnicity depending on who you're talking to. An ethnicity to one person, and a religion to another, both and neither at the same time. Whatever needs to be to make you look bad, to get you fired from your job, to get you driven out of polite society, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do want to tell people, like, I'm not like encouraging comic books or video games or stuff, like, because I do think it's in the same way that porn is, it's kind of an escape, right? It's a way for people to, it's a way for white men to get out. And so I'm thinking that there is, in some ways, something good about this in a way, because it will drive white men out of it, hopefully, at least, you know, the sane ones. And I'm curious what your perception has been of people who are in, like, deep into this world and video games and comic books, and what you've seen, because I see there is a lot of people who are uncomfortable with it. There's also some people who recognize what is going on, but they just kind of don't care because they're so into the story, and you know, they're willing to sell their culture and their heritage for just kind of a cool, fun, exciting story. And like, oh, I don't really care who the character is, and so what if they're trying to import these values? What have you seen people's reaction be?
I mean, I've seen mixed reaction. I see people not care at all, and they, you know, they're willing to overlook absolutely anything as long as the action scenes and the special like, it's so, I still,
Jared?
Hello?
Oh, sorry, you cut out there.
What's the last thing you heard?
Not much.
What I was saying was that depends, right? I've seen mixed reactions. I've seen some people not care what the substance of the content is at all, as long as there's, you know, cool special effects, action scenes, things like that. But then at the same, and I was going to say that, saying that to some degree, I'm like that too. You know, I'm the sole provider for my family. If I get a kid, but at the same time, I still like to engage in some leisure. So I don't mind putting this stuff on, but it becomes increasingly the gap virtue signaling, and it becomes harder and harder to ignore it, to the point where, for the most part, I don't want to throw my money at it anymore. I would be, I know I'm not the only one who feels, you know, one of the hot right now on YouTube is video game videos, like live streamedly, is people being like, I politics in my video.
You were cutting out again. You were saying the last thing you saw.
They're that the last that they can't ignore it anymore, right? So even these normie huge video game YouTube channels, PewDiePie, even, they're forced to comment on this stuff. And I don't know, I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this today, not because I wanted to promote Marvel's content, but because, you know, I want to try to red pill goys.
Yeah. Okay, I think the connection is better now. There were a couple times where you were robot-y.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it's my internet or...
I don't know. It could be my computer too. Anyway, what are some of the things that you noticed about the Venom movie?
Well, as I said, I could say it again, but as I said before, the whole first hour of it's just Eddie Brock going around to Democrat, transgender gay rights protests, waving rainbow flags, saying we want democracy now, that this sort of shit, like making it seem like if you're the rebel, you're a hero and a rebel and all this stuff, and you're standing up to the system. If you're using your platform to promote gay rights, if you're using your platform to promote transgenderism, if you're using your platform to aggrandize democracy, and they literally spend the first hour of the movie on shit like that with no other content whatsoever. Basically just explaining away the fact that he's in San Francisco. No real digging into that. It's very obvious that they literally just had to cast him there as a means to get him out of New York so that they could continue to make movies in spite of some licensing conflict between Disney and Sony. So it's all very thrown together and rushed. It looks like the most effort went into virtue signaling the shit libs to me.
Right. Yeah, and I was flipping through the new Miles Morales comic that was released. So maybe we could talk about that, because this guy, so the guy who created I just mentioned Michael Bendis, that he's the Jewish guy who created the Black Spider-Man. He's going to DC now, and just pull it up here. Basically, this other guy, Saladin Ahmed, is taking over, and he is an activist. He's a left-wing activist, and I got this quote here, kind of a typical tweet of his. Hey, Kellogg's, why is literally the only brown corn pop on the whole cereal box the janitor? This is teaching kids racism. And of course, you scroll down, Kellogg's apologizes profusely. We're committed to diversity and inclusion. We did not intend to offend. We apologize. The artwork is updated and will be in stores soon. Please don't hurt us. Please don't hurt us. So yeah, it's like... There's this guy. He's I saw
that outrage tweet when it was posted, but I didn't realize that he was the guy who created this Black Spider-Man. I guess at the time I didn't realize Miles. I wasn't red roofed on it.
No. So he's not the creator. He is the guy who is overtaking the project now.
Oh, okay. So he's going to be the writer and illustrator for it going forward.
Yeah, he just put out his first issue of the new comic book, Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Saladin Ahmed.
Yeah. He's also apparently doing the Miss Marvel or something. It's like this Muslim woman. Have you heard about her?
No, I haven't. Red roofed me on it.
I don't know the whole thing, but it's just like they created all these new characters kind of simultaneously. One of them was Black Spider-Man, and then there's Ms. Marvel, and she's just, I don't even know what she does or what her superpowers is. But
look at that! Looks like this guy's involved in like writing Star Wars comics too, and the diversification of the Star Wars series. He really gets around. What a coincidence! A coincidence.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he's got some great connections. But yeah, so I was looking at somebody had some previews of this one, the first issue, and there was like a page on there where Miles is, out with his girl, right? And just like a typical teenager, y'all, and he's like he runs into this DACA kid, basically, this dreamer. I'm not kidding, and I'm
surprised he's not a Dreamer himself, to be honest with you. I'm
Right,
surprised he doesn't
right.
have DACA protection, because really that's why we got to let the DACA kids into America, give them amnesty, is because without them, how would we have superheroes? I'm surprised that's not the arc. But so what happened? He runs into this DACA kid. I'm sorry to derail
he
you
runs
here.
into a DACA kid, this Mexican at the pier, and the kid is all worried because like his mom is gonna be deported, and so he's being separated from her, and he's like, Miles just says, "Oh man, that's terrible, dog," or you know, I don't know if they said dog, but and
does he go on a mission to get him like a green card or like a fake
no,
ID
no,
and a fake social security
this
number?
Is just like, this is just one of the like few minor instances where they slip in this political agenda.
Get you all vulnerable and paying attention to a story, and then being like, you know what's really awful?
Yeah.
Parents being separated from their children at the border as they're coming to get a better life in America. This is awful. Moving on, next part of the story. You know what I mean? It's presented entirely uncritically, and yeah.
See, I think they realized that you can't push people too far, and that's why they don't have huge story arcs that are just obvious propaganda. Instead, what they like to do is, have some kind of storyline that is a little more along the lines of what the original Spider-Man was like. So I think they are trying to not alienate too many people.
Yeah, you don't want to start it off like in the middle of a gay pride parade with the pussy hat on the head and like wearing the strap-on dildo. You got to like boil the frog and ease them into it. So first episode we meet the DACA kid. You got to wait till like the second or third issue to introduce the gay pride parade.
Yeah, that'll come. You just got to be patient. Yeah, but even the cover is like kind of reminiscent. You know how it's like that shot, if you saw it, that shot of him standing at the top of a building, like that could have easily been a Spider-Man cover somewhere. It's pretty traditional looking, right? And it doesn't have a lot of pause, but like you say, they are gonna gradually introduce all of this stuff. I'm sure if they don't have any LGBT people there, they will. They'll have a lesbian cheerleader or something. So
let's see. Saladin Ahmed on Twitter. White people would not be in America without illegal immigration. White people would not be in America without birthright citizenship. Have a great day, everyone. Let's see here.
Yeah, somebody in the chat was like, just search white people Saladin and see what you find. So I'm sure there's a ton of vicious and vile stuff out there. And this is who is in charge of our comics now for Marvel. It's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
If a guy named Saladin shot 3 white people over a parking space, what do you think Fox News would call it? Well, this guy is woke. This guy is real woke. Everything's white people's fault. I can't imagine what these stories are gonna be about. Maybe Spider-Man topples the KKK. Spider-Man breaks up the Charlottesville rally.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miles Morales.
You know, when you said you wanted to talk about Venom and how like SJW it was, I thought they were gonna have like, the Venom suit is actually a metaphor for the evil within us, the capacity for bad, and then they would show like some neo-Nazi person and like, because that's the whole Jordan Peterson thing, is like, if you think you're not capable of this, oh well, you just have to you haven't looked at yourself close enough. You haven't seen the monster inside you. Let's
talk about that for a second then, because I forgot to even mention that normally, if you're familiar with the character Venom, he is presented as being a more evil type character, but that's not the case at all in this story. And in this story, he's presented as being an absolute hero as he goes around exposing all this corporate corruption and standing with these gay rights activists. So he's presented as an entire hero, and any amount of trespassing and property destruction that he does is entirely justified because he's got pure and virtuous motives. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't even go watch these things anymore. I probably should because it would be good content, but it's so bad. It's not even. Did you think it was entertaining? I mean,
not for the first hour, because like I said, I mean, they made it so hard for me to filter out the virtue signaling and the propagandizing that I literally couldn't. I'm like looking at my phone. I'm like, all right, let's move along with this bullshit. I found myself calling for action scenes and special effects. I'm like, let's just do some fighting. I paid $5 for this movie. I might as well get some entertainment out of it. But no, it's that kind of shit absolutely does ruin the fucking movie for me. They did a spoiler at the end. There's going to be a second one, so they'll probably save all the beating up the Nazis for that one.
The carnage.
But then, yeah. But and I don't know. They did do this thing where the billionaire antagonist that he was fighting against, they didn't cast that guy as a white guy, but he was a couple scenes where he was not only doing genetic experimentation on people, but he was always also launching rockets into space. So it seemed like they were trying to cast him as being like this what's the Elon Musk type, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the feel that I got for it. He was like a 56%er, but he was supposed to be at the same time be Elon Musk. And the Eddie Brock was just so heroic for standing up to this billionaire and, you know, for all this corporate corruption. And, you know, he's never standing up to the media. He's never standing up to the government. He's never standing up to any corporation that's actually, you know, in control of the economy of their world. It's always just some fringe shit like, oh, they're over here doing genetic testing. Oh, and by the way, he's exactly like Elon Musk in that he's trying to be a private company that shoots rockets into space. And like, it felt so fucking shit-libby and stupid.
Yeah, they never go after. They never go after Twitter or any of those corporations. It's always, they're doing something where they're killing dolphins, and you know, it's just this caricature. But then I remember too with the Star Wars, was that Rogue One or something or other? They had this like character in there, and he looked just like Donald Trump. So I'm surprised that they didn't cast him as a white guy, because, you know.
Well, that's what actually, if you want a real spoiler alert, dude, at the very end of the movie where they did is that there was going to be a sequel. The guy that they had in a chair getting a symbiote put on him, and it was Carnage. And that's the traditional story arc with Venom, is Venom and Carnage. But the guy that they had playing Carnage did have blonde hair like that. So don't be too surprised. They saved that shit for the second movie.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. And there's gonna be something deeply wrong with this guy, right? Because
that was the other thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I remember in Spider-Man 3, like, didn't Peter Parker have this black suit, and then he gets hit by the bell, and then it falls onto Eddie Brock, who was Topher Grace, by the way, my doppelganger. And Topher Grace is in that movie, and then he's so his character Eddie gets the suit, and then it takes over him because he's got this like murderous impulse. He wants to kill Peter Parker.
Yeah, that's how it happened in the original comic book too.
Yeah, I mean, so they didn't have any of that in this one, huh?
No, they didn't have any of that, but they did have. They cut that whole arc out. They put more effort into putting in these subtle details, like calling things that they disagreed with fake news, and what was the fucking other thing, dude? Oh, one of the signs they had at the protest was "We are the resistance," and you know, Eddie Brock's part of the resistance, dude. He's just a good old Antifa member. He didn't, Orange Man bad. He didn't do nothing wrong.
Oh wow! So you're saying that he's like a liberal, huh? He's an Antifa guy.
No, he's Antifa, man. He's the resistance. He's a freedom fighter for truth and democracy and open borders. So that's, you know.
Well, you know, that's kind of true to life, because Antifa likes to put on masks and everything and hide their identity. I guess that is why they gravitate, a lot of them, towards these superhero comic booky type things, you know, because they feel that they are part of some Justice League.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it takes
Justice League, right?
I feel like it takes a lot of extra effort too, because if you look at how these stories usually are, and I think even the Spider-Man video game got criticism for this, but if you look at them, the superheroes are almost always helping the cops, and that's a no-no. That's a no-no in the social justice Black Lives Matter world. You can't help the cops. That's friggin' lame, man. That makes Spider-Man a fascist, right? So they have a hard time reconciling this. On one hand, they've got the superheroes helping the cops, but on the other, the superheroes are also the resistance, and you know, just this cognitive dissonance that ensues from that. And of course, they make all the police characters these 56%ers and non-whites, and it all starts to not make sense. They just shoehorn all this shit together. So they're trying to diversify their cast at the same time that they're trying to paint white people as having all this systemic power and privilege and using it against them. Meanwhile, there's almost no actual white people in the movie.
Right. No, that's true. They do use the storyline to give red meat to their base. And the base wants to feel like there are these really powerful fascists that are in power and control of the government, and you as the foot soldier, you know, you have to do whatever it takes, and you know, we're just average everyday. Like, it's the exact opposite of reality.
And by the way, don't notice that every major corporation agrees with you. Don't notice that all the banks agree with you. Don't notice that all 3-letter government agencies agree with you. Don't notice that the Democrat and Party and the neocons agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the amount of ignoring shit you have to do to convince yourself that you're part of the resistance as an Antifa member or as part of Hollywood is fucking insane. It's a lot of smugness. They must really genuinely love the smell of their own farts.
And what do they think, that like Marvel is just some small grassroots company? Like, oh, they just compiled this.
Oh, they came out of nowhere.
Tiny little animation.
We're an underdog.
We fundraised it on GoFundMe. You know, it's like,
oh yeah,
come on.
Yeah, no, this didn't come from investment bankers. Nobody on our board is Jewish. What are you talking about? We're just like you.
Yeah.
This is an American business built from scratch.
Right. But I don't think they're ever going to have like a Jewish superhero, because that would be too obvious, right?
Do they not have Jewish superheroes? Hold on, I gotta look this up.
I don't know, but it seems too obvious. I don't think they want to have that kind of a face out there, right? They want people to just, they want to be able to go back to the meme that Jewish people.
I gotta fact check you, okay? I gotta fact check you. List of Jewish characters. I'm just sorting by Marvel. There's more than this. One of them's called Shabbos Queen. That's not Marvel. That's another one. But Magneto is apparently Jewish. The Scarlet Witch, which is also from the Spider-Man arts, Jewish. Quicksilver's Jewish. Polaris, Jewish. Volcana, Jewish. Iceman, Jewish. Sabra, Justice, and Doc Samson, all Jewish.
Huh. Yeah.
So there are some, but they're not they're not like prominently featured superheroes.
No. They're just supporting characters, or in some cases villains, which, you know, like Magneto's interesting because he's
an anti-hero. He's not exactly a villain.
Yeah, exactly.
His whole thing is like, he lived, I think what it was, his actual storyline is he survived the Holocaust, and he understands just how bad humans can be to outsiders, and how mutants are just so different, you know, and that's why he has the plan to kill all the Gentiles. I mean, kill all the normal humans, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I think Magneto probably represents the closest they come to admitting something openly. Like,
he's a Zionist.
The white,
basically.
Yeah. Maybe, but he wants all of Greater Israel to be. He wants the entire planet to be Greater Israel, a Zionist where he doesn't want anybody who's not a fellow Jew to exist. That's lit. I mean, how is that not what it is?
Well, I guess someone would say to that some of the superheroes aren't Jewish, but if it's a metaphor for that,
Well,
then it does.
If it's a metaphor, then they're all Jewish.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. And you got to remember, I mean, somebody in the chat earlier said that Spider-Man was actually created by a white guy, and I'm gonna have to take that on faith. I thought Stan Lee created him, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I could look it up.
I thought the guy said co-creator though.
Co-creator. That
I don't know.
Spider-Man. I don't know. I'm sorry. Steve Ditko. All right, he's right. Co-created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Ditko, early life. The word Jew doesn't appear anywhere in his Wikipedia page, so I don't know. Phrenology checks out, Wikipedia checks out. Not necessarily conclusive, but it looks like the chat's kind of on point just at a glance.
Yeah, the chat does pretty well. They've I've got a good chat. I like my chat.
So Magneto, the story of the Jewish genocide, and you know, it almost kind of like explains the dichotomy of the Zionist Jew versus the non-Zionist Jew, right? Because you got Professor Xavier, who's also doing the same thing, used to be Magneto's right-hand man. They used to be buds. They were trying to figure out a way to make the world safe for Jews, and then they just disagreed. Exactly. Magneto thought maybe we should go and have our own little thing over here and be completely segregated. Xavier thought that. Magneto thought, well, no, we should have the entire world, and we should put this thing in the top of the Statue of Liberty that's going to either kill all of the normal humans or convert them to Judaism.
Right. I mean, in some ways, it's almost like the disagreement between the very, very early Christians and the Jewish religion back in that day.
I'm not. That's not necessarily my wheelhouse. So I unfortunately can't speak too much to it. Sure. A red pill, though, I'm more than happy to hear it.
I mean, this is the argument that a lot of pagans make, and I'm a Christian myself, so I'm just repeating back what they've said, and it's basically that, so the Christians in this analogy would be like Professor Xavier, who wants to spread their acceptance and virtue to all of the rest of the world, in other words, the Gentiles. And that's what the Christians decided to do, and they opened up their religion to the rest of the world, even though it was started by Jewish people. And so that's just what I mean in terms of the comparison between like militant Zionism and this radical acceptance and everything.
Yeah, no, I'd have to think more about it, I guess. I every time I think about the origins of Christianity, I get confused because there's overlap between the Old Testament and the Torah, and I'm not 100% red pilled on that. And it's not necessarily ever my policy to disparage Christians or pagans, though I do understand that there tends to be a bitter feud between the two sometimes.
Yeah, there is. It's too bad, I drew a little drawing one time of pagans and Christians uniting. You've probably seen the one where there's a black hand and a white hand coming together, and it's like, it's a funny meme. Like, let's come together.
One of them's Hulk Hogan's arm. I can't remember who the black guys are.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So this was a version of that where you had.
Or it might be Roddy Piper, actually. It might be from the movie They Live. I can't remember. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I wasn't familiar with that, but this was just like a Viking and a Crusader linking arms and saying, not stronger together, but we're in this same enemies, basically.
Pink pussy hats, stronger together. I don't.
Yeah,
I know.
She
I know
ruined that phrase, man.
I've seen one that's got like an illustration of the Viking and the Crusader standing side by side in front of like Zog army with a big spider.
That's what it was.
Together. Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. I think it's a reference to Lord of the Rings there, guy.
Ah.
I think that's what Legolas and what's his name, Gimli the dwarf do? It's from Predator. I guess I'm stupid. Sorry, guy.
Oh, Predator, of course.
Predator.
Yeah, so
yeah, anybody.
It is
Go ahead.
interesting how like well, just to go back to like the escapism thing, I think a lot of people, you know, they love their movies, they love their video games, and now we're seeing more and more they just can't, they're not allowed to have those spaces. So why? Well, I'm not sure what people are going to do.
They're gonna continue to play video games. People are still gonna watch movies and play video games. It's just gonna be one of those things where they start to spend less and less money on it, or they're going to go to content that's less and less politically saturated, right? So, for example, instead of picking up like Red Dead Revolver 2 for PlayStation 4 and being led through a story where I'm gonna have to, fucking kill some Ku Klux Klan members. I know that's coming. Instead of picking that up, I'll play Smash Brothers, which is just like pure raw competition, right? And there are places you can go in video games to just compete, not have to get that stuff. But I think it is going to start to affect the bottom line for these companies that waste money on virtue signaling. If you look at Electronic Arts and what their stock's been doing since they put out Battlefield 5 and their revisionist history of World War II, where it prominently features women just totally saving the day and stopping the Nazis, then, people that game tanked, dude, and hopefully it'll be a market signal to these companies to stop doing shit like that. And if it's not, then they'll go out of business, and good fucking riddance, right?
Yeah,
but
they'll be replaced by Angry Goy too.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be replaced by Angry Goy too. And I don't have a problem with people playing video games, but it's the issue. The issue comes when it starts to become your whole life, when you're prioritizing and emphasizing the importance of playing video games to the exclusion of literally everything else, to the exclusion of starting a family, to the exclusion of providing for yourself, to the exclusion of getting out of your mom's basement. So if video games for you are something that's standing in your way and you're using it as an excuse to just sit around, then maybe it's not that good for you. And maybe it's good that they're putting all this fucking bullshit in there because it'll piss you off enough to get off your ass. But for guys that aren't in that position, I play video games casually and I'm not in that position. I just spend my money elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, what happens when people start, they don't have the video game comfort and world? Well, they have to turn life into a video game.
Gotta start a family, dude. You gotta go get a job. You gotta enrich your community and make the people around you better off. You gotta get out in the world and not just live selfishly, as Jordan Peterson wants you to do. Just work on yourself and clean your room and never go out and deal with anything. That's the thing, dude. Like this idea that you need to master self-improvement before you can go out in the world and do anything is kind of poisonous. I'm pretty sure Winston Churchill was an alcoholic. I mean, how many examples are there of rulers and world leaders that were alcoholics and cokeheads and woman abusers and, had mommy issues? Some of them were gay. There's like all these people with personal demons that they don't let, I'm not perfect. I haven't mastered myself. I haven't cleaned my room. I haven't followed Jordan Peterson's rules for life. Therefore, I can't go out and make a difference in the world. Fuck that. Shit's just meant to subdue you and keep you docile.
Yeah, I got distracted. I was thinking about Jordan Peterson. He put out one of his books in Portuguese, and at first I thought it was Spanish, but then somebody told me it was Portuguese, and then it was like, oh, this makes sense. He's got to target the whites in Brazil, so they embrace individualism.
Oh yeah, no, they just elected Bolsonaro, right? Bolsonaro. The Brazilians are in desperate need of some individualism. They're doing evil collectivism in response to all this non-white immigration, and they have a moral obligation to not band together and divide labor in the production of defense against this invasion, because if they did that, then they'd be just as bad as the Stalinists and the Bolsheviks, and you really wouldn't want to violate your principles, Goy. So why don't you just go ahead and let these people flood your country and consume all your resources, right? Is that the idea?
Probably, yeah, I'm sure it is a result,
probably
a reaction to Bolsonaro or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I've always made the point why isn't Jordan Peterson, you know, going and targeting these other countries? You know, why is it only the English speaking countries? But
we got a Portuguese one now. I mean, it just so happens that Brazil has a significant white population. Still waiting on that Japanese version. Still waiting on that Chinese version. We're not gonna go. Oh, I bet are we gonna get a Hebrew version soon? We're gonna go extol the values of individualism in Israel. Say destroy that wall there. I don't know. I was gonna say goy, but they're not goys, are they? Yeah, go ahead and destroy that wall. You don't want to be immoral. Let these Sudanese fucking invaders into the country and consume everything in sight, breed at an average rate of 6-7 kids per family, totally replace the Jews that live there. Why don't you go ahead and do that? Oh, you got a wall? That's immoral. What are you doing? You're basically Hitler there, Jews. The fuck, guy?
Well, Jared, it is good to have you back on. It's been a little while since we talked, and it just feels good catching up and everything. And I know you got to run soon. So you're not on YouTube anymore, if I understand it correctly.
No, yeah, I was gonna say it's good to be back in the saddle. I'm not on YouTube anymore. My YouTube channel got showed. So this is the first live stream I've been on in a while. Actually, I was on the public space a few weeks ago. But yeah, no, if you want to keep up with me now, you're not going to be able to do that on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter because I'm banned from all three platforms. I would encourage interested parties who want to subscribe to my show to go ahead and follow me at jaredhowe.net. You can subscribe to the RSS feed there, or alternatively, go to christophercantwell.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get email notifications about every episode.
Awesome. Yeah, and
So to Speak is the name of it. We do the JQ, we do current events. I do a lot of stuff about foreign policy and monetary policy. Also cover video games every now and then, try to keep things fresh and interesting to bring in kind of a younger, wider audience.
Yeah, no, I definitely try to catch your podcast whenever I can. You do monetary policy too, so you cover a lot of bases there. It's great.
Yep. No, I'm looking forward to coming back though. If you, I think we got a couple other things to discuss. Maybe the Dinesh D'Souza thing. I think sounds like we should also discuss Jordan Peterson, man. I think that'd probably be some good content.
I think you're right.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me. Merry Christmas and everything. If you want to go ahead and wrap things up, I'll stop blabbering away. I got to get out of here for this family party.
All right. Well, I'll let you go then.
Thanks, buddy.
See ya. And so it's just me and yeah. Thank you guys. I just wanted to remind people, you can follow me on Twitter at Philosophic Art. Go check out, a lot of you already know I do artist stuff. So I'll have regular videos on I take a certain person that I find interesting, and I go over and find an interesting clip of theirs and I animate that. I do hand drawing and then speed it up to an animation. So just did one on Stefan Molyneux's documentary in Poland, which is good, and definitely check that out. It's him talking about sort of him rethinking the whole collectivist issue and talking about some of the possible errors that he might have made in that regards. So yeah, and then we do the live stream usually once or twice a week. I've got a new segment which people have been telling me is pretty good, so I'll probably keep it up. It's called Fake News Friday, and that should come out tomorrow with bearing no other interruptions. And that it's gonna be good. I think it gets better every week, honestly, but I'm just covering all of the things that the fake news likes to peddle and talk about, push on us. So there's a lot of insane things going on out there, and I try to keep you abreast of what is happening. So thank you to all my supporters on Patreon, and if you want to go help out, you can go to my website, illustratedphilosophy.com/donate, and there's different links. I do have a Bitcoin address as well as some other things over there, so go look at that and follow me on my email list. So without any other things, I think we will close off here, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and a great week. Take care.